careful, please. That elite was an ultra.
I'm just gonna say it how it is. The Nephites were communist. And if that offends you, then I'm afraid your brain has been programmed to hate words and not hate evil. Repeatedly in the Book of Mormon, it says that the Nephites had all of their things in common, and that there were no poor among them. Common, as in communism, you know? And unfortunately, much has been preached over the pulpit against communism. And while at the time I believe this was mostly a feature, it has now become a bug. You know, Ezra Taft Benson was right about the communist takeover of America, and it happened. They won. But now, all of this preaching against communism has become a smokescreen. And no better example is found than that of Joel Skousen, who, despite having pretty good takes and good intuition about which politicians you can and cannot trust, his reasoning is very elaborate. And he has this strange worldview in which he believes that the Soviet Union never fell. Because in his mind, the Soviet Union is the great and abominable church. Therefore, Putin, you know, he's secretly a communist. He's got a shrine to Stalin in his bedroom. He flips over his little Orthodox icons and there's Stalin's there. And the Soviet Union is still 100% intact, and the fall was orchestrated, and they're in bed with the government, and they're gonna get us. They're gonna get us. It's the Chi-Coms. It's the Chi-Coms. You know, it's ridiculous, okay? Ridiculous. On the other hand, you have people talking about cultural Marxism and Fabio-socialism and endless 5-syllable word isms. And I don't recall in the Book of Mormon anyone fighting against a 5-syllable word ism. It wasn't a battle against Gadianton robberism. It was a battle against Gadianton robbers. And I think that we get so focused on the isms and all this word salad stuff, we all get hypnotized by James Lindsay because he says communism is bad, and that's what David O. McKay said. That's what Ezra Taft Benson said. Yeah, but we know what Ezra Taft Benson was talking about. Whereas I don't know what James Lindsay is talking about. Sorry. My brain has like the same computational power as a toaster, so I can't understand these people, I guess. I mean, what happened to a lot of these communists after Trotsky was betrayed by Stalin? Where did they all go? Did they all come to America and get into politics? What are their politics now? Are they still communists or are they something else? You know, these are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. The devil keeps his friends close, but his enemies closer. And so if you're thinking about the Soviet Union, or the Democrats, or the left, I don't think you're thinking about it right. This is not a blue versus red world. It's a Gadianton robber versus Nephite versus Zoramite versus Lamanite world, you know? And I think that the Book of Mormon is truly a spectacular book because of the sheer amount of time it devotes towards deprogramming us to the incessant propaganda that we are surrounded by. Truly it is an inspired work because Mormon saw our day and knew that we would be surrounded by chicken hawk war profiteering propagandists waving atrocity propaganda in our face 24/7. And the Book of Mormon is an antidote to this witchcraft, this hypnosis. We are constantly warned against the Zoramites who stir up the Lamanites to anger. Amalickiah, the Nephite traitor, he stirs up those Lamanites to anger, frames the servants of the Lamanite king for assassinating him. It's so blatant. It's so obvious. You know, the official narrative, even in Mormon's day, was probably like, you know, those Lamanite servants, man, they killed that king. I'm so glad that we trusted Amalickiah and that he was able to lead us into war. And Mormon's in there with the scrolls and he's like, oh, it's all coming together. It was Amalickiah. It was Amalickiah. I know it. And so truly it's a work that is very anti-war. You know, it's full of war chapters. It's cool because it's not, like, it doesn't advocate pacifism. Quite the opposite. But the Nephites never invade Lamanite lands. Though Captain Moroni threatens to when he isn't given fair treatment for his people and his families. He gets to the point where he's just ready to snap, you know? And I think that one of the reasons why no book will get you closer to God than the Book of Mormon is because of this feature that the more you take seriously what it actually says and look at the world around you, you will be immunized, to use a Elder Gongism, you'll be immunized against all this propaganda. And unfortunately, as Mormons, we don't have the best track record of strongly opposing, wars in the Middle East and stuff like that. But I think it's because we've lost sight of who we are. And we are quite a bit traumatized from persecution 100 years ago still at a, kind of a subconscious cultural level. So anyway, it's the communists. It's not the communism. And with these whole political compass tests, there was this Mormon political compass test floating around from this YouTube channel, the Elephant Guy. And you take it, and I didn't like it because I tested in top right blue. And when I take a normal political compass test, I test top left red. And that's because I believe in the law of consecration. I believe in the United Order. And that is the ideal form of government. And the political compass test is not designed to tell the difference between communism and the United Order. And this is kind of Satan's whole game plan, is he imitates true principles. And then as soon as people clock him as Satan, as something bad, he goes and he does something else. And then people are unable to accept the true principle because they associate it with what he did, if that makes any sense. So yeah, the Nephites worked together, and they were not, libertarian paradise people. I've heard people talk about, the second coming and socialism. It only works if Jesus was in charge. It's only going to work if Jesus is in charge, but you need a perfect leader. Okay, or other people will say, when Jesus comes back, he's going to establish my libertarian paradise, and we're going to be able to defend our marijuana fields with AK-47s. Jesus isn't a libertarian. Sorry, hate to break it to you. What he demands of people would probably be called communism by your average American bloke. He says to the rich man, sell all your possessions and follow me. Oh, that's communism! King Benjamin, he labored with his own hands or whatever, so the libertarians get all excited about that, and they see, no taxation. And it's like, yeah, we know, that's good, no taxation, that's great. The Book of Mormon's message is the idea of putting collective needs over individual needs, i.e. socialism. What do you think the story about Captain Moroni and the Kingmen is really about? Why were the Kingmen bad? It's because they cared about their own welfare in their ability to become nobility by betraying their people, and they put their own interests over the Nephite people. And Captain Moroni wasn't going to have it. So he did what was necessary to secure the existence of the Nephite people. That's what he did. Was it libertarianism that took care of the Kingmen? Was it capitalism that took care of the Kingmen? Or was it putting collective needs over individual needs? Something to think about. And finally, how were the Gadianton robbers defeated? It was through economic cooperation, which some of the Nephites might have not exactly wanted to comply with. But Laconius, the chief judge, said, everyone gather all of your possessions into one place. He said, seize the means of production. These Gadianton robbers don't produce. They just garnish your wages. They just steal. They just murder. They're a bunch of loan sharks. I don't know the exact mechanics that the Gadianton robbers employed. I'm sure they were many mechanics. But none of them were actually producing. They were all sterile, usurious pursuits. And so Laconius says, let's seize the means of production. Nephites of the world, unite. And they gathered up all their possessions, and they stopped all production, and essentially short-squeezed the Gadiantons through an economic strike against these Gadianton robbers who had grown far too fat, wealthy, and powerful. And they defeated them. That's how they defeated them. Why is communism bad? Communism is bad because it's a lie. The people who were doing it were lying, and they were being cynical when they preached this false gospel of communism. Oh, the oppressed worker, he's going to be better off. Is that evil? You know, is it really evil to say that capitalists are taking advantage of workers? They are. Anyone with eyes can see that. You know, CEOs, or rather, you know, BlackRock, makes millions of dollars by sitting in chairs. And other people make pennies by, you know, going into mines. And they can barely afford eggs or whatever. The groceries are too expensive, you know? So that's why communism is evil, is because it's a lie. It's a lie that was employed by people who hated Russians and wanted them dead and wanted their money. And they took it. And they eventually got kicked out. They're not communists anymore. So these people that Ezra Taft Benson warned us against, they're still here. And they're still liars. They're still liars. Another problem with communism is that it's anti-clerical. It hates God. That's why it's bad. It's a lie and it hates God. It's a lie used to steal from people. Do you know what else is a lie that's used to steal from people? Capitalism. Do you know what else hates God? Capitalism. Capitalism is bad. I know we've been programmed to think communism bad, capitalism good, but what God has tried to tell us is that the United Order is good. All other orders are either preparatory gospels for the United Order or bad. You know, I don't know if DNC 42 or whatever talks about taking money from your fellow man, your fellow member of the church. Why is priestcraft so bad? You know, have you ever asked yourself, why is priestcraft so bad? It's because you're stealing. Priestcraft is when you lie and you use faith, either a faith that you share with people or a new faith, cynically to get money out of them through donations or buy my merchandise. Hey, we're the same member of the same faith, so buy my merchandise. Are you Mormon? Oh, you should buy my merchandise. This is bad. This is bad. Well, YouTube is a business. You gotta make money somehow. Make money from someone who isn't a member of your faith. How about that? Like, this is what we talked about in early Mormonism days. You know, don't buy sugar from people who aren't Mormon. And if someone started going around all the steak centers or whatever to try and sell some product, and then they went and built their house on the mountain, I don't think that the people would be very happy about that. Anyway, people are way too eager to take money away from, you know, members of their own faith, utilizing the social fabric. What little social fabric we have left is being utilized to just make people money. And so that's priestcraft. It's when you lie to people like that. It's when you use people's morality against them to make money. People of your own faith, allegedly. I mean, you don't actually believe it. Anyway, so that's my rant about communism. If we're going to identify Gadianton robbers, if we're going to successfully identify evil, we're going to have to stop getting mad every time we see red, like a bull. There's some guy out there waving the communist flag, like the matador, and the bull goes for it every single time. Okay? You know, who would win in a fight? A bull or a dude? A bull would win every single time. Except the bull, it can't identify who its enemy is. It thinks it's fighting the flag. It doesn't know where the guy's center of mass is because there's a big red flag waving in its face that's got a hammer and a sickle on it. And he hits the flag and no, doesn't connect, doesn't connect, doesn't connect. We're fighting these shadows. We're fighting these isms. It's Fabio Socialism. It's globalism. It's the deep state. It's this or that. You know, who is it? It's communism. It's this red flag with a star and a sickle on it, and it keeps waving in my face. It's everywhere. They're taunting me. Get it, get it, get it. Who is waving the flag? It's the matador guy in the funny hat. Get him. Boom, fight's over. Like, slavery is a choice. You know, that's a famous saying from a rapper. But slavery was a choice. And it is a choice. Like, open your eyes and say, who's waving the flag? Get that guy. Who is doing it? Who is communism? Who are the Gadianton robbers? It's Gadianton robberism. It's the Gadianton robberism. It's kingmanism. It's this kingmanism. It's losing us the war. It's the Zoromitism. The Zoromitism. Oh my goodness. It's Korohorism. It's Nehorism. They called them Nehors. Anyway, so identify the source of your problems, okay? Communism didn't kill Jesus Christ. Communism didn't kill Joseph Smith. People did that. Specific people. Anyway, I'm going to call it Nephi's razor. If your interpretation of who the Gadianton robbers are isn't plain and precious, if Nephi couldn't glory in the plainness of your worldview, then maybe you need to reevaluate it, okay? Nephi glories in plainness. He delights in words that aren't 5 syllables and end in ism. He hates word salad. So that's Nephi's razor. That's my rant about communism. Hope you have a good one.